Hello friends, so in today's video we will be looking into Dockerfile commands. So Dockerfile is basically a blueprint which is used to create Docker images. So let's start. Okay, so this is one of the example to create a Docker file. Okay, so let me explain the first command that we have. So we have from Ubuntu, then we can mention a maintainer. Maintainer is the person who is creating this Docker file. Okay. Then we have run command, copy, add, work directory, expose, environment, user command, entry point. So these are all basically the Docker file commands which is used to create Docker images. So let's start with from command. So this command sets the base image for the subsequent instructions. So what this from command does, what is the meaning of this from Ubuntu 20.04? So basically this command actually pulls the Ubuntu image from the Docker Hub repository and create a custom or the our custom Docker image will be created on top of this Ubuntu image. So it will pull the Ubuntu Docker image from the Docker Hub repository and then execute all these commands on top of this Docker image and will create our own custom image. So what is Docker Hub? So this is the Docker Hub. Okay, so Docker Hub is a kind of a repository which contains lots of different types of Docker images. So if you see here, we have machine learning and AI related images. We have Python related images. Okay, so it has lots of images. Okay, you can search for images like Ubuntu in we are using in our example, right? So if you see here, we have these variants of Ubuntu images available. Okay, so if you see these all different versions of Ubuntu is available. So this is a Docker Hub repository. We can create our own custom repositories as well. In many of the organizations, they create their own private repository and they use the images from those private repositories. Just for security reason, they keep it private. So Docker Hub is actually accessible to everybody. Okay. So right now we are, writing from Ubuntu 20.04. That means we are actually want to create our own image from the Ubuntu image which is present on the Docker Hub repository. The next command is the maintainer. Maintainer sets the author field of the image. That means the person who is creating the this image is the maintainer. So its name and email ID should be in this. Now run is basically used to executes commands inside the container, often used to install dependencies. So right now, if you see here, we have run apt-get. So apt is a repository or a package installer for Ubuntu Linux. So it is or for any Debian actually Ubuntu or Debian based Linux distributions they use apt repository. So you can use apt-get. Also, I think currently we can only use apt and it works without a hyphen get as well. So you can just do. You can also do apt and this should also work fine. So what it does is when you are going to build your Docker file, it will create it will pull a Ubuntu image from the Docker Hub repository and then it will run apt update and then it will install Python. So it is installing Python on top of Ubuntu 20.04 image. Next it says copy dot slash app. What this command does, copies files from the host machine to the container. So host machine is your system where you are running your Docker file or building your Docker file or building your Docker image. So if you see copy dot means the current directory, dot is the current directory. So it will copy all the contents from your machine current directory to slash app directory inside the Docker image. So what will happen is that your Ubuntu image will be first pulled. Okay. On top of that, it will run commands to update and install the Python. Then it will copy all the files present in your local system inside the slash app directory of the Docker image. So these files could be your Python code. So suppose you are writing some Python code here, okay, and you want to copy those. So it will copy any application. So copy all the codes which is present here, and it will, or the jar if you are running some jar, Spring Boot jar and all. So those will be copied from here to this folder, or if any related dependencies, some whatever dependencies your project is using, those things we can copy from using this copy command. Next we have add command. Add command is similar to copy, but what it does is it retrieve files from a URL or extract a tar file. So suppose there is some file on some server, and you want to copy those file from there to your uh, container or the image. You can use this add command. So if you see this example from some URL, there is some tar file. So tar is basically a compressed file. So if you want to copy that, what it will do is it will copy this star.gz file from the server, and it will place in this app folder and also extract the content of this zip file or the compressed file inside this app folder. Work directory is to set the working directory. So when you do work directory slash app, then next all the commands will be executed inside the app directory. So this is basically changing the directory to app. So if you see here, we are pulling the Ubuntu image, and on top of Ubuntu image we are creating the our Docker file. Then we are updating the image, this Ubuntu image. Then we are installing Python, copying the files. Maybe since we are installing Python here, maybe we are if we are developing some Python application, that's why we are installing a Python here. So we will be copying all the Python files inside this. So if you see this example, there is at the end we are running app.py. So it could be that this current directory was having this app.py. We have where we have written all our codes, okay, and we are copying this app.py to this path. Then we are also compressing saying, we are copying some compressed folder and extracting the content inside that file, that folder. It could be that this app.py is using some resources from this path. Next we are changing the work directory to slash app. This is going to change the directory. So now it will be moved to our you know context will be moved to app directory. Now next all the commands, all the things will be executed inside the app directory. Expose 8080 is basically exposing the port 8080 from or inside this Docker image. This is used to set the environment variables. So if your application is using some environment variables, then you can configure all the environment variable using this env commands. Okay. Then we have a command cmd. User is basically used to change the user. So if you right now all these commands that we are running here, that app, that update, installing Python, these all are being done using the root user. So after doing all these things, it is good practice to not use the root user after that. We should change the user to app user, because for security reason, if you know somebody, if a hacker is going to access your Docker container, and if you have exposed your root inside it, it might the hacker can exploit your system. So it's better to never use root. So here we are actually changing the user from root to app user, and then we are running this command python 3, and entry point is app.py. So these all command will be executed by the app user. So coming to this cmd, so cmd provides a command that will be executed when a container is run. So when you will be building this Docker image, it will be executing all these commands. Okay, these from, maintainer, run, copy, add, work directory, expose, env, user. But these two commands are executed when the Docker image is actually run to spawn our Docker container. So if you see this command is going to be executed when we do the Docker run. So when you do the Docker build command to create your Docker image, all the commands written above this command will be getting executed. And when you do a Docker run to start your Docker container from your image, you need to run the command. This command will be executed. Next we have entry point. This is also similar to command. Configures a container that will be run as an executable. So in these two way, we can actually run the our application, or the this app.py we are running in this example. Environment is used to set environment. Expose is used to expose AT. Volume is used to create some mount path inside the. So if you want to you know mount some path from the host machine to the Docker, then you can use this volume command. Okay, arg is define a variables that users can pass at build time to the builder. So when you are building, we can have this arg. So when we run a build command and we want to pass some values, we can pass using the arg command. So if you are using version 1.0, now during build we want to create a new version, we can pass as a argument version 2.0, and it will change the value of this version to 2.0, and then we'll create a Docker image on that. Now what is the difference between command and entry point? So both are used to execute the application running, which is going to start our Docker container. Now what it says that to provide defaults for an executing container. Yes, the command specified by cmd can be overridden by arguments provided to Docker run. So suppose we have something like executable param1, param2, right? And then you have command, this will be executed, right? So if you are going to do a run command, we can uh, you know remove this app.py. So if you see this is to set a command that will always be executed when the container starts. The command specified endpoint is not overwritten by arguments provided to Docker run, but these arguments can be appended to the entry point command. So if we see that here we have python 3 app.py. Okay. Now suppose we want to execute some another script. So if we are having cmd, we can do that. We can pass during Docker run, and then pass some app hyphen v2.py, and it will start running the app.v2 file. But for entry point, we cannot override this, but we can add additional parameters. So suppose this app.py was using some argument, so we can pass that to the entry point. So entry point is used to mention all the required things, okay, and extra parameters we can pass. And to command, we can pass anything. We can change the command. So it is not this entry point is not we cannot override it, but the cmd file we can overwrite it. Okay, so this is entry. So yeah, if you see here, we are having entry point Python 3. Then we can write command app.py. That means Python 3 we cannot overwrite, right? Because it is in entry point. And app.py we can overwrite. So we can now run, Docker run with app v1.py plus some arguments if the script needs some arguments. So if it says in this example, the container will run Python 3 app.py by default. If you run docker run my container other script.py, it will override the command arguments resulting in Python 3 other scripts.py. So this is all for Dockerfile commands. These are only the commands that we can use, okay, to create a Docker file. Other commands we can use, using the run command. So if you want to execute some other, you know, base image related commands or some commands we want to execute inside the container and the base image, we can use this run. We want to copy more files, some other files from other directories, we can again use copy add. So this is all. Okay, so thanks all and bye bye.